Welcome, everybody, to today's discussion on the reality of AI and virtual worlds. As AI continues to evolve, the boundaries between our physical and digital experiences are becoming increasingly blurred. AI-powered virtual worlds are reshaping the way we work, learn, and interact. So really raising profound questions about the nature of reality itself. Will AI enhance human potential? Or will it create a future where we will struggle to distinguish what's real? So first, our agenda for today, we'll do some introductions next of myself and our panelists. We have three different topics, and we have questions for each of those topics to go through, and then we'll provide an audience Q&A section, and then we'll close with some final remarks. To start this, my name is Todd Watts, and I'm the president of Global Future Initiatives. It's a nonprofit organization focused on cross-cultural events, on education, innovation, and trade development. I'm also a VP at Nevra Consulting, where we're focusing on AI innovation, automation, and AI solutions. So with us today, we have really two incredible panelists and speakers who will help us explore these questions and more. So first we have Alvin Wang Graylin. He's the chair of the Virtual World Society, vice chair of the Industry of VR Alliance, and author of Our Next Reality, the book in his background, How the AI-Powered Metaverse Will Reshape the World. And then we also have Dr. Deng Li. He's the chief AI officer at Vatic Investments and a distinguished expert in AI and machine learning. And I also know, as he mentioned, he spent roughly 20 years at Microsoft. So before we dive into the discussion, I'd like to invite each of our speakers to say a few words about themselves. So Alvin, let's start with you.
Sure. I've been in the AI and XR space for 30 plus years. I studied natural language processing and VR back at University of Washington back in the early 90s. Also symbolic AI and semiconductors as well. And then also at MIT, worked in semiconductors with Intel and IBM. I worked in cybersecurity with WatchGuard and Trend Micro. And then also the last 9 years have been with HTC and Vive doing VR and XR technologies. In between, I also founded 4 different venture-backed startups. 3 were AI focused, and have invested in over 100 companies as part of different accelerator and strategic investments, and actually also some financial investments as well. So a little background on me.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Alvin. Dr. Lee, if you would like to say a few words about yourself as well.
Yes. Call me Lee. I got my PhD many years ago. I spent my first career as a professor in Canada, University of Waterloo. I taught there for 10 years. And I got bored, to be a full professor, tenure, keep grant coming. And then Microsoft hired me to be there in Microsoft Research for many years. So over there, I got the opportunity to do all sorts of research work and also transfer of technology to products, including mostly voice recognition and the audio technology and multimodal, AI. I was the one who created this deep learning technology center at Microsoft. And that actually eventually turned into something called AI, Microsoft AI School. I was head of the school for a while. One of the most interesting things that I did at Microsoft was to bring, AI expert, the godfather of AI. I think his name is Geoffrey Hinton. You probably know that he got Nobel Prize just about 4 months ago. Worked with me for a while at Microsoft. So we work together to bring AI, this modern AI called deep learning into industrial level, success. And then, everybody, took off, including Microsoft, Google, and all the industry until now, actually. And that's called deep learning technology. And then I was able to bring that technology into financial industry company called the Citadel. Hired me from Microsoft to lead their AI effort there in Seattle, actually. And that's kind of my career. And once I joined the financial AI industry, everything become, silent. But I'm not allowed to say anything about what's going on. It's a bit like James Simon's company. So today, anything I say today is really coming from something that does not touch that kind of AI secret in the industry. It's interesting industry. So I've been there for about 7 years. Okay, that's my life story.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, so let's jump. We'll go into our first topic and set of questions. So our first topic, AI and the blurred line between reality and virtuality. This first question, so Alvin, is for you. So in your book, Our Next Reality, you argued that AI and the metaverse will redefine human experience. So what do you see as the biggest opportunity and the biggest risk of this transformation?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's going to happen is that we are going to gradually transfer from having 2D surfaces being the communication medium that we use, whether it's the screen in front of your face now or the one in your pocket or the ones on your walls, to move it into a more immersive medium, right? Because humans in general are designed to work in a 3D space. So for us to move our interaction model into a 3D space is the most natural thing for us. So it'll allow us to learn better, to work better, communicate better, and more efficiently. We'll remember more. And it allows us also to sense presence and have a deeper relationship with people we talk to, right? Right now, when I look at the screen and, you guys, I see the little heads on the screen, but I don't feel I'm with you, right? I don't feel like we're together. But when you do that and you put on a headset or glasses, you will feel sense that of a kinship between people. And I think that's one of the biggest
Mhm.
potentials of this technology. And I've had people I've met in VR that I've never met in person. And then maybe a few years later, I would meet them in person, and now I feel like I know them already, right?
Mhm.
Where it's very difficult to have that sense when you're doing just audio or video communication. And I think, one of the biggest potentials, I think, is for learning, because and we've done a lot of studies within our work, is to show that when you learn in an immersive and interactive space, you just learn everything better. You learn faster, you retain more, your attention span is better. I think on the other side, the danger and I guess the risk is really about misuse, because with any technology, if it's used for good, it's going to make you a lot more, remember things much more. If it's used for bad, it can be used to influence you, manipulate you, control you, right? Because we're already being controlled a little bit by the screen that's in our pocket, by all the social media, but it's going to go up fivefold when you feel it around you with the spaces that are created. And we will, I think, within the next 5 years, see that as a key interface and key medium, is that the content will actually be interacting and created by AI in real time for every individual. And when that happens, the reality that you see may not represent the reality that's in the base reality. And I think that can be used for good or bad, and we need to be very careful how we apply that technology.
Points. And so think about today, in our 2D environment, just the bump that we get from just likes or the limited interaction we have now, how much more of that is going to be when it's in a 3D environment.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this, Lee, on that before we move on to the next question?
Yeah, so very much so. Actually, I read a lot a week. I got the chance to go over your book, Alvin's book. It's very nice. I really love your definition of metaverse. Number one, there are three elements. Right? Number one is the 3D internet. You just mentioned, and number two is AI empowered, and that's actually the aspect. I think this is our focus of today's topic. I haven't seen a lot of progress. Maybe I'm, due to the shortage of my time spent to look into this field. I tried to spend some time going over to see how much is in progress. I haven't got a chance to do that yet. But today I probably will learn from you about this AI empower, exactly how AI actually empower the kind of experience. And of course, the number three element, which is the essential element of this metaverse, is the use of XR, extended reality as the interface to give the immersive experience. Right, it's really the 3D kind of connection there. So it's just wonderful. I do believe that this kind of new way of looking at the human interface compared to the traditional 2D, mouse, all this, the traditional way of doing that. There's a sort of a quantum leap in terms of experience. I actually really love this area. I myself actually use Facebook, this kind of 3D for entertainment purpose. Oh, once I put it in there, sometimes I feel like, gosh, this is the kind of experience that everybody should have, right? Not just, it actually can go beyond what human experience, right? The human, it's not just, what you said is, it's just, on the surface, people interaction as is the real world, people get to each other, but it can go beyond. I mean, you can, when you do play games using this kind of 3D device, it just feels something deep quantum jump in terms of experience. I think when that gets empowered by human, the kind of intelligent, artificial intelligence brain together, the potential is unlimited.
I'm just saying, I think Lee and I are very, very aligned on where things are going, and actually, where AI actually is increasingly becoming important in terms of how this content is being created. Whether it's I was just at the MIT Reality Hack about 3-4 weeks ago, and there were 600 students, 600 young people that came from around the world, and over just 2 days, they made over 100 different pieces of content. Right. So to allow content to be created that quickly, and and some of them were actually very complex things. Some of them had hardware, some of them had BCI. So AI allows that to happen because it's making the entire content creation process much more streamlined than it ever was. You could actually type a sentence and create a model, whether it's a character or environment, and then you can very easily, with almost no code, create virtual worlds that can go around it. So.
Well, let me jump in because this next question really ties into that. So, Lee, your expertise in machine learning and AI really spans multiple industries, including speech recognition and financial AI. So, do you see AI's role in virtual world fundamentally different from its role in the physical world?
Yeah, 100%. As I just mentioned earlier, this one aspect is experience, right? And another aspect is intelligence. These two seem to be kind of separate, right? So actually after while I was going through the audiobook for this our next reality book, in my mind I have this 4 quadrant. Right? Maybe I can share with you to see whether Evan, you feel that this analysis is going to be adequate. So one quadrant is like a physical world or natural world. The second part is the digital world. Natural world or analog world, the physical world versus a digital world. The digital world we call the bits versus atom. Right? That's one aspect. And the other aspect is experience versus intelligence. Right? Intelligence is like brain. And experience is like what you feel, the kind of connection between human and computer. So based upon these two axes, we have 4 quadrants. Right? Now, if we have this the first quadrant would be, human intelligence and the natural. That's human intelligence. Okay, and then if you expand the human intelligence into digital experience, you get AI. So AI versus biological. So that dichotomy is the biological intelligence versus artificial intelligence. And then in the experience side, so correct me if I'm wrong, the traditional experience between human and computer is called HCI. Right? You work in the HCI lab, you got from your book. I realized that.
Yes.
And that work at that time, I don't believe they do a lot of 3D, all this kind of HR in the old days during 90s.
Actually, no. Back then, we had one of the early
they already
early VR systems, the VPL system. It was probably several $100,000 systems with big silicon graphics workstations, and it actually had 6 degrees of freedom already. So. The technology has been around a long time. It just never took off because of both cost and accessibility and complexity.
I see. Okay,
but I think we're definitely at a time where that could change fairly quickly.
Yeah, but now you can see metaverse, right? The kind of new experience that we have, all these new products coming out. I mean, to my mind, that this is also quantum jump, right? And now in the intelligence side, moving from human biological intelligence to artificial intelligence, that's a quantum jump. So so far, biological intelligence also has some aspect that digital intelligence cannot do. They're both sides, right? The whole point originally the AI is to simulate biology intelligence. It turned out that due to the algorithmic innovation, it turned out to be better than biological intelligence. So I don't know. Many people may not agree with that, but this is very, very strongly articulated by Jeffrey Hinton in a few recent talk. Why artificial intelligence eventually can do better. And now there are some signs that it's already doing better. Right? You can see, the intelligence level in many of the systems now can do something that just a regular human brain cannot just do fast enough, cannot do deep enough. But of course, human brain still has a lot of aspects in terms of adaptivity, they are better. But eventually it will be overcome. That's why we call it AGI-ASI. AGI, artificial general intelligence, will be similar to what human can do, maybe do slightly better, but it's more general. But ASI will be, it's called the super intelligence. It's going to do better. And we see that it's going to come soon. And I believe that for, in the experience side quadrant, that kind of, we don't even talk about natural, versus, the three, to go from 2D to 3D, right? So I'm not sure whether do you consider the quantum jump in terms of technology or in terms of just cost reduction?
From 2D to 3D
for example. So as you said that in 90s, people already got 3D, prototype built, but it just, the cost become too high. It cannot be realistic, right?
But nowadays, and also the performance, right? And same as AI, right? AI has been around for a very long time. I was also working on neural networks back in the early 90s, and the very simple chips, right? Very simple, very low complexity, but we just didn't have enough processing power. Whereas now with both XR and AI, we've gotten orders of magnitude increase in capabilities in memory and processors and co-processors. And so you can having complexity creates emerging capabilities.
Yeah,
right?
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so the same thing happens in the metaverse space, right? There's a very important concept called emergent ability, in AI. In the old days, when it's small, it just couldn't have all this kind of intelligence exhibited until just recently, it's about 2 years ago. People, once it actually scale up to the high level enough, and everything becomes just, explosive. Yeah, that's great. So the answer is absolutely yes.
So the other thing I'm thinking about this is also there's hardware, there's processing, but isn't there also, because if we think of the current metaverse, like Oculus, the Meta's glasses, there's the limitations of having to wear headsets to be in that universe versus having something that allows you to see the virtual world, but also have it overlaid in the physical world.
You're talking about the AR versus VR kind of discussion, right? And I think that's a choice we had to make before, but within the next 5 years, you will have single devices that will be able to do both interchangeably, and it'll just be a button or a command or something to allow you to essentially black out the physical space. So I don't think that's really a long-term choice or a long-term differentiation we have to make. And so the same device will be able to do both and to do it very well. In fact, if you look, I'm sure you tried the Vision Pro, even though that device is very big, it has pass-through AR. And pass-through AR, if it's done well, will almost feel real, right? And so very soon you will actually have see-through AR together with ability to block out to then create immersive capabilities on the same device. Yeah, I think we're going to be, and when that happens, we're going to even spend more time having these glasses on our face. So, right now, if you look at total hours per day of screen time, most people have something around 10 hours a day. If you look into computers, TV, and phones, by the time we get glasses becoming the main interface, everybody will essentially have about 16 hours a day of screen time, because some of it will be see-through screen time, some of it will be blocked off screen time, or some of it will be mixed screen time.
So the next question. So some argue that immersive AI driven experiences could disconnect people from reality, while others believe they enhance human potential. So where do you both stand on this debate, and how does the interdependence between AI and XR, or extended reality, play a role in this shift?
Who would you like to answer first?
Yeah, how about you go ahead? Yeah, you go ahead first.
You go ahead, Alvin.
So we actually have done studies on this. I have my team work on essentially the addictive nature of the technology. And what we found was it's about twice as addictive as 2D if you're looking at single person gaming. It's about 4 times more addictive when you look at social activities. From that perspective, it has a potential for people who already have an addictive personality to bring people and disconnect them from the world. So this is very important, where the software itself needs to be able to have certain types of constraints so that it reminds you to take breaks, and it reminds you to essentially bring yourself back into the physical world.
Mm.
And we did tests based on the age group and based on sex.
Mm.
And for females, they were less addicted, or less controlled by the content. Males, particularly young males that are under 20, they were significantly more so. So their self-control is very limited. As device vendors, as content creators, so I think there's a certain level of responsibility. You should be able to detect certain people who maybe overuse the devices or overuse the content, and to allow them to either self-manage or have the device managed for them. And we found that the most effective way is actually to have the device managed for you, particularly if you're a young male. So.
I see.
And having had a young teenage son who's older now and can manage that, anybody that's had a teenage son can attest to that, I think. Lee, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Of course. I'm definitely on the camp of in the debate of enhancing human potential. And then as to how AI, the interdependence between AI and XR play a role in this shift, I actually have opinion that AI is precisely the right technology that enables immersive AI-driven experience to help avoid disconnecting people from reality. I believe that the kind of test you are doing, you just do, A/B testing, right? You do with or without, and then to see what kind of, whether to what extent the device actually contributes to disconnecting people from reality. But AI actually can play the role to reduce that disconnect. All the things you talk about, can be automated, and the AI can learn, can adapt to learn the user behavior, because the threshold, because how much you pay, it's personalized, right? And how do you actually manage to collect the data from user experience and to avoid the difficulty, the disconnect from reality from happening, right? So there is a balance.
Yeah. The key is who is controlling the AI, right? The AI is the objective function of the AI is to help the user. I 100% agree with you. If the objective function of the AI is being controlled by the platform provider to say make him spend more time, it also can do that as well. So this is the problem, is that we already have issues with social media manipulating our minds and our children's minds, because their priority is profit and engagement and screen time. If the objective function is make your children healthier, make them learn more, then I think that's a different objective function. And when AI is put on those tasks, it will 100% be effective in fact, having let's say eye tracking, it will know what your attention is on. It will know whether you're focused or not. If you have BCI signals, you can find out if somebody's bored or excited or scared, and change the content based on that, right? So it is the potential of this technology can be used for good and bad. And I just hope that in the future, advertising and engagement is not the objective of the people who are running the platforms.
I see. Yeah, that's good. I mean, the words come to the words, right? You can have regulation to solve the problem, like in China, right? They limit the use of playing games.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm actually a fan of the things that they're doing in China on the gameplay, where they're limited to 3-4 hours a week. Because I had kids too, and at one point they were playing a lot of games. I'm like, no more games. You need to focus on your work, right? Because kids don't know how to control themselves. We need to help them.
Yeah. My actually personal experience. Also, my kids also play Meta Quest, right? I mean, the complaint is the head mostly is too heavy, but that's actually more serious problem at this point in time compared to disconnecting people from reality.
I think comfort and ergonomics is really important. I don't know if you can see this. This is a smart glasses that's a size of like a regular glasses, 40 grams. These are the kind of glasses that are now coming to market. There's probably 3 or 4 right now that are already in the market, and then over the next 2 years, there's probably 10 more that will be that kind of size, have displays on them.
Is that the Meta device, the one you show?
No. That's actually a company that's based in Singapore. It's called Brilliant Labs. A friend of mine. But there's also even realities. There's the TCL. There's probably like a number of them. Actually, Google and also I think Meta also have their glasses products as well. So all of them are coming out very soon with products that are kind of in the $1,500 to $1,000 price range, that has displays, that has AI built in.
Uh-huh.
and looks like normal glasses. And
Yeah.
when that happens, I think we will see a very fast transition
Uh-huh.
because AI, when it's accessible in your glasses and it's always available,
Uh-huh.
it's not only to give you information, it actually increases your effective IQ. Right.
Yeah.
When you take it
Uh,
off,
yeah.
you will feel dumber. Whereas right
Yeah.
now, when you don't have your phone, you may feel like
If
you're disconnected from your
yeah.
friends. When you become more and more reliant on these glasses to be your guide, your tutor, your
Uh-huh.
advisor, when you take
Uh-huh.
it off, you will feel dumber. And I think
Yeah.
that will be the reason why people will move
Uh,
to using these kind of devices. Initially more for the AI, later
uh-huh.
more for the XR. So
Yeah.
So
Oh,
let
that's
me let
what.
me bump us to the next section because I think you're answering some of this next question already. So our
Uh,
next section is on AI's role in shaping the future of human interaction. And my first question was for you, Alvin, regarding your book highlighting how AI powered virtual worlds could change how we work, learn, and socialize. So, what are some real world applications you see emerging first? I think you're already starting to touch on that with the glasses and how that's going to impact.
I mean, I think that the initial ontake or take up will actually be on AI glasses, which then will move to XR glasses. Because AI glasses can be much smaller and thinner, right? Because of the issue that Lee talked about, where to wear a big headset that is, a pound or 2 pounds, people will not use it very long,
yeah.
right? Unfortunately, the glasses are very small. The batteries are also very small. And
Mm-hmm.
so trying to put displays and sensors and cameras and mics all of those things onto glasses and have it last all day is very difficult. So most of the initial glasses have either monochrome displays or single eye displays or something that is not the fully immersive experience, right? I think you probably saw some of the Orion glasses that was from Meta that came out maybe
Yeah.
they were demoed maybe like 6 months ago. But those
Uh,
things supposedly cost $10,000. They don't have to. They actually there will be devices like those that will come out for $1,000
mm,
in the next year, right? So,
mm,
but even then, it's not going to last all day, right? That's the problem. So you still need it for user experience and user adoption. Being able to last all day is like almost a basic requirement for people to wear it. It has to have value for you to wear it and have
uh,
it on all day. And then the technology is a bonus, right?
mm,
So there's this convergence between the experience and the technology and the hardware being able to support those use cases for people to be able to use it more consistently. Real world applications we see emerging first.
Yeah, I think initial use cases for these devices right now has more been in B2B and well on the B2C side it's really gaming, right? Gaming
yeah.
is the main focus consumers. But if you look at that, I think the value of that is limited. It's for entertainment and kind of distraction. But the initial value of it, enterprise or B2B, is more in training, it's in simulation, it's in design, defense, and education, right? So
Okay.
and also
Healthcare
and
probably.
yes, exactly, and healthcare and medicine, right? So using it both for training doctors as well as for therapy, a lot of it for kind of mental therapy type things. So
Mm,
So our next question is targeted towards you, Lee. So
yeah.
your company, Vatic Investments,
Yeah.
uses AI in finance to optimize this
Yeah.
decision making. So how do you see AI's predictive capabilities influencing real world versus virtual economies?
Yeah. For the real world, this is something that everybody has been working on, right? Including my firm, including almost of the Wall Street firms, and also including some of the firms, quant firms in China as well. Though they are focused on the real world. Now, for virtual world, I was actually doing some search for virtual economy. I mean, by virtual economy, you mean in the game, right? You can buy things using whatever coins you
I
buy
think
there.
that's what we're seeing now, right? Like
Yeah,
Minecraft, you're seeing the whole economy out within Minecraft and other games.
yeah,
But I would imagine that as this
yeah,
capabilities go more mainstream, that you're going to see
yeah.
economies within those other spaces as well.
Yeah, I haven't seen much AI work in that space yet. For the real world, it's obvious, right? And most people don't know, right? When I joined the Wall Street firm from Microsoft, a lot of my friends told me that, gosh, you are moving from creating things now going into flipping things here and left hand and right hand side, right? Without knowing that this AI applications in the physical world actually has a lot of social values. For example, it actually, this is one of the things before I accept job, I make sure that, the work I'm going to do is going to be beneficial to the society. Right? When you work for a software company, you know that you create a product, everybody the society can enjoy. Now going to the finance world, on the surface, you might think that, it's a zero-sum game, right? People move, fund from one place to another. Actually, it turned out that there's a much more deeper social value for that kind of industry. One of them is automatic pricing. Right? You actually can automatically determine the market price for anything. Right? Otherwise, how do you know? The farmers, before they know that they want to grow 1,000, they want to breed 1,000 cows, it's going to be too much on the supply and demand. You don't know, right? And then the future market actually tell you that even before you put your investment in doing this kind of product, whatever product, whether it's agriculture, determine how much you want to produce this kind of agricultural product, you already get the pricing already. It's guaranteed for you, right? And that's all part of the AI play the role to quickly bring the pricing into the equilibrium so that everybody in the world knows how to produce certain amount of product, especially agricultural product, etc. So I do see that in the real world, sort of AI and quant finance plays a very important role. Now for the virtual world, I haven't seen any of those kind of work going on. And then the power of discovering pricing automatically is through market, and then people buy and sell. And then a lot of fund companies just get whatever spread you can have. You have small amount of spread, you actually equalize price. So the market become much more efficient. But so far, when I talk about in the virtual world, virtual economy, is there any need to have the equilibrium? Any need to have the market efficiency? So far I haven't been able to see that yet. I don't know how deep is this economy in the virtual world. People don't make money out of virtual world, right? You just spend, right? So the whole point of the gaming company is they encourage you to spend money to buy, whatever clothing, Minecraft, the tools.
Is it more a function of engagement? Because I was thinking within the physical world, obviously scarcity is a factor that plays into pricing and so forth. But in a virtual world, is there scarcity? So is it another factor?
I think in virtual worlds there is actually manufacturer scarcity, right? So most of the scarcity that is artificial. But actually, if you look at things like Roblox, a lot of the materials are being sold, not the platform selling. It's actually the individuals themselves creating things to sell to each other. So there is a marketplace there, but the marketplace is not as efficient as you see on Wall Street, right? So it's usually fixed price type of it's not a dynamic pricing model, So I don't think those worlds are there yet. And if you're talking about a lot of the crypto stuff, I think most crypto things are scams. Some of these things like Sandbox or Decentraland, those are not real platforms. They're platforms that are created to create artificial scarcity in these artificial land, and those things are not market priced, right? So I don't think we're there yet, where we need AI to help with pricing on these artificial platforms. But longer term, I think we will, because in the next 10 years, a lot of people's jobs are going to disappear because of AI. And when that happens, we need to have a parallel digital economy that people can spend their time in, and also be able to make a supplementary income and have a sense of belonging in. And at that point, we're going to have critical mass across a lot of different areas where AI can help.
Oh, this is a great point. I never thought about this. I think in your book you mentioned a little bit of that, Web3, right? It's the extension of the metaverse, but you have some connection to blockchain. These are all part of the Web3 concept, right?
So I think currently Web3 is, I guess, co-opted by people to sell fake crypto coins. But I think in the future, blockchain, the technology is useful, but most of the cryptos that are out there today will probably not exist. So we kind of need to separate the current crypto economy from the future blockchain-based metaverse, I guess, digital economy. So I think there is something real in a potential digital economy for digital goods, but it will not be based on, I think, any of the existing coins, because all of the existing coins are unfair.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not there yet, but eventually it'll be there.
So let me jump to our next question, and we touched on this a little bit, so I'm going to address that. So the next question was, what are the ethical considerations of AI-driven virtual experiences? Should there be limitations on how immersive AI can be in our daily lives? I think we touched on that a little bit around the idea of limiting, for example, teenagers or teenage boys, especially how much immersive game time that they can have. But when this virtual experience becomes not just immersive in games, but immersive in whatever we're doing, is there a consideration on how much that virtual experience is, even when we're not totally in like, in a game environment, but we're in our regular environment, but we have an enhanced virtual experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the, with any technology, there's always a room for abuse if you take it too far. And ethics is a very fluid thing depending on culture and age and so forth. But people talk about, okay, what if I superimpose a person's face on my spouse or girlfriend or whatever, and that allows me to have a different type of experience in the physical world with the real world, right? I mean, some people would say that that's ethically wrong, but if it's something that's mutual consent, maybe that's also okay, right? So I think there's a lot of things that haven't been discussed in terms of what's right and wrong, what's allowable. But it's the same with right now. There's a lot of people doing AI girlfriends with text bots. It's how and those can be also very addictive. Are those good or bad? And maybe for people who are lonely, it is a way for them to feel a sense of companionship, and so
Yeah.
there may be reasons for them to have that, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think, but I'm also in favor of some regulations in this space, right? Like limiting the amount of gaming time. That's useful, especially for the bad game. Right? Some good
Yeah.
games, maybe there's less need for that. Minecraft is a pretty good game, right? People can learn to be, to train to be creativity, but some bad games has to be limited, especially when it gets addicted, it's really, really bad. Anyway, so and also I think a couple of days ago I was watching this NBC News. They talk about this, negative impact of this AI agent. About sometimes, it just gets really, really, hurting people. Make it hurt quite a bit. Right? But on the other hand, the AI agent can also help. Even 10 years ago, at that time I don't think we were still in China. Xiaobing has that was a wonderful article. I think it's Microsoft's product, right? And they
Yes.
actually praised how Xiaobing actually helping the society. A boy who got broken heart after breaking up with a girlfriend, and then he talked to Xiaobing. Xiaobing comforted him, and then he became recovered quickly. But that's a very positive. But on the other hand, this kind of technology is extremely sensitive. Right? If it's not done right, it can have very negative effect.
Yeah. I mean, and if you look at Xiaoping, their objective function was not to try to get you to buy it to pay more money. And if you look at a lot of these new ones, the new character AI or Pi or whatever, they're
Yeah,
trying to make you spend as much time as possible. So
yeah,
their
that's
objective is to get you addicted to their software. And humans are very manipulatable. So
yeah.
so I agree with that. I think there needs to be certain type of regulation put in place soon. Because these systems are going to know you better than your family knows you,
Yeah,
because they have access to all of your data, all of your records, all your emails, all of your biosignals from looking at the pulse of your veins on your neck by looking at various signals from your watch. It will know how eliciting the emotional response from you. So it can very easily manipulate people. I think that's something that can be
yeah.
abused by the wrong platform providers. So.
Yeah, so we both agree that there should be some limitations on how immersive AI can be in everyday life.
Yeah,
But
and
how
I
we
think
do
it
that?
also depends on age group too. So for young people versus adults, like right now, if you want to go and drink, you have to be 21. I
Yeah,
think there may be certain types of rules
yeah,
for using these type of tools as well. So.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Great. So let's last question in this section. So there's an ongoing AI arms race between nations. As we all know, we fairly recently had DeepSeek release, which really exposed that and brought it to the forefront. So with governments and industries heavily investing in AI, how do you see this competition shaping the future of AI-driven virtual worlds? What is the best path forward to ensure global cooperation rather than fragmentation? And Lee, why don't you take this one
yeah,
first?
very much so. Yeah, I have been keeping track of this for quite a while. And I personally really, really for the global collaboration rather than competition. And this is how science should be done. This is the AI should be developed from scientific perspective. But of course, government will argue that there could be some national security issues there. This is a kind of separate thing. I've never been able to engage in that kind of discussion. But from a scientific viewpoint, if the global communities can cooperate, it's all open source, and then the technology will develop much, much faster. But on the other hand, because special kind of technology, it has its own inherent risk, and some kind of regulation should be, in place. So the real issue is how to balance the two, right? And I agree on the opinion expressed by both sides, right? I mean, here you're talking about national competition. This is related to open source versus closed source, right? It's interesting that in China they always open source. The rumor has it, I think psychologically it's also true that if you're behind in the beginning, it's better to open source, right? If people are leading ahead like OpenAI, they even change from open source to be closed source, right? That's kind of natural human psychology. So now, once you can open source, you can catch up more quickly. At the end, that's a very interesting dynamic, right? And then because more people are going to contribute, but I don't know how much you know about this, right? This is a very, very recent event. To me, it's not that deep sea technology is superior, it's cheaper, that's secondary. I think more important contribution is to open up everything. That means people can see exactly what kind of technology can do what. DeepSeek opened up, especially R1, for reasoning model. I don't know if you follow up. There are two types of model. One is V model, the other R1 reasoning model. And many people believe, including myself, the scaling on the inference time, that aspect, right? That's R1, requires special learning in the inference time. I mean, that's what people have been speculating what OpenAI has been doing on their O1 and O3. There are a lot of leakage out. And OpenAI decided to keep that strictly confidential. Nobody knows exactly what they are doing, and a lot of speculation through one angle to another. They actually did put out this very important concept of the inference time compute scaling and learning. So I always thought that learning is important, right? It's just like long time ago when I did speech recognition, during the inference time, there's a very complex algorithm to allow the search space to be very efficient. It's a very complex algorithm. And it's not until DeepSeek opened up R1 when they have the paper, they have that code just come out just 1 week ago. But their paper make that very clear that no, all the computation getting is done in the training side. So in the inference side, the only thing they do is they produce more and more tokens, like thinking mode. And it's still next token generation rather than having complex algorithms to make that generation more complex, smart. No, it's everything is done in the training side. And I personally learned a lot. So at least that helped me to save a whole bunch of energy not to follow that part. And then people didn't know that. I mean, before, people never actually believed that the standard reinforcement learning can play such an important role. I mean, people get reinforcement learning through human feedback, right? And that's not really the kind of reinforcement learning. But once OpenSeek, a lot of people speculate, including myself, that OpenAI is doing something very similar. They never open up, and people always think that it's materials, it's like how they do that. And then once they open up, people duplicate the result from the DeepSeek. Just simple, very standard algorithm called reinforcement learning that people have been knowing that algorithm for many years. It's sufficient to make all the reasoning visible. And this is just, to me, it's just very, very big contribution to the humanity.
Yeah.
So I think that China is catching up quickly. They make a good reputation out of open sourcing. So people, scientists, AI scientists in the US who are not directly involved in OpenAI, the people who are doing OpenAI, of course, they know. I still believe that similar kind of technique is taking place over there. So this is just wonderful. It's catching up very quickly. Just 3 days ago, right, there's a new agent framework coming out called Manos. If you do that, that's another framework. It's a completely different kind of technology. One is the core, the brain. The other one is the brain controlling the hand to do intelligent work, right? So one is just very, very smart. You can reason into many steps. Manos make use that kind of reasoning as part of brain, and then execute many whatever task there is. It has a much more practical value than DeepSeek, and that is open source as well. And although at this point people have not been able to pivot. And the rumor that what I read now is that people have to pay all money, tens of thousands RMB in order to get even the key to run that. But don't worry about you should never do that. I'm pretty sure within a couple of weeks they will be open source. Everybody will know what's going on. So this is a very good contribution to the humanity, and then it also shows that they are actually sort of playing catch up role very quickly. So in terms of competition, I personally think that it's just a few months of difference. OpenAI may have some proprietary technology there, and the performance is still better. Well, if you take rigorous read the benchmark sort of competition, they still have some small amount of edge. But I think OpenAI is going to push them to go even faster to widen up the gap. But I'm pretty sure open source community, once they get to know exactly what is the basic technology that can be done, that can be exploited to improve the technology with more people there, the gap will become smaller and smaller. So nowadays, maybe about a few months of difference in terms of the technology. But I think the more we wait, probably next year from this time, at this point in time, 1 year from now, that they could be very close. And that's good, right? Because once people are more or less on the same platform, then it's easier to create collaborative environment. So, but if one side much higher than the other one, like about 1 year ago, like 2 years ago, actually, OpenAI is way above anybody else. Even Google and Microsoft, actually, Google has to catch up, right? They have to reorganize their entire AI organization in order to be able to compete with AI, and that's far away. And then when they become both as good as each other, almost as each other, they all want to do closed source because they are above, much higher than, more advanced than anybody else, including much better than Meta. All right, Meta was pretty much behind in the beginning, and they decided to use open source technology. They put billions of dollars to get their open source large language Llama for a while, and they the gap become close into each other. I think the same trend is going to emerge over the next 1 year or 2 years.
Yeah. One of the fascinating things I'd heard about between the DeepSeek and OpenAI is because, of course, OpenAI is flush with cash and people and what they're doing, whereas DeepSeek came in with limited constraints in money and in chips. And so they had to be much more efficient, and so their thinking about how to solve their problems was different than how OpenAI was.
They do have a few very interesting innovations which have been documented very, very detailed in their papers. And many of my friends in various companies duplicate their methods and then to show. But in the US, some of these details don't need to be done, right?
Because so sort of forced constraints force them to think about it differently.
We call the scarcity is the mother of invention. That's good. So DeepSeek actually accomplished that. And really, when I look at the way they are doing that kind of innovation in face of the shortage of computing resources, I would think that they have to have more people than what they put in their papers. The paper about 100 people, right? It has to
and
be
maybe
done.
Chips too, but we won't talk about that. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's a separate issue.
Yeah, I don't think it's they have that many more chips. I actually think it is innovation because of necessity, right? And I actually talked to some friends over there as well. I do want to reframe this a little bit. I feel like people talk about U.S.-China AI arms race. At the end of the day, right now, none of the companies that we're talking about national companies. They're all private companies, right? So every company is actually they're all privately funded either by VCs or in the case of DeepSeek, it's like an individual is funding this, right? So when we talk about the race between two countries, it's really a race between labs that are residing in these two countries. And the U.S. labs did have a significant lead, as Lee mentioned. But what we're seeing is that essentially some of the innovations that were kept in the closed source labs was discovered in parallel by DeepSeek, and they've made it available. And I think that actually is something that will democratize innovation in AI again. For the last, probably if you look back 5 to 10 years, most of the papers coming out in AI came from the academic labs. But if you look at the last 5 years, almost all the innovation coming from the corporate labs. Right, because nobody can afford to spend hundreds of millions or billions of dollars building these things anymore. But now with the types of innovations that they've done, where they're working with constrained resources, they're now making models that will run on your laptop, or maybe run on a Raspberry Pi. I actually saw the DeepSeek running on a Raspberry Pi, right? When that happens, that means anybody with a basic computer in a lab in any school can now participate in creating innovation. And I think that's something that is a gift that DeepSeek is giving to the world. So I actually don't see China seeing this as a race the way that the US politicians are positioning it. If they did, they would not be opening this up. I mean, I could see them being opened up the first time when they announced this. But the fact that, a week after they announced it, they then went to meet with Li Chang and then went to meet with Xi Jinping and
Uh-huh.
still was able to come back last week and release 6 new papers with all of their inside architecture, right? That
Yeah.
would not happen. That would not happen if the Chinese government thought that they were in a deep race between
Mhm.
China and US, because that essentially is giving away their advantage, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think we need to reposition this, and I feel like America's making it all about a competition, whereas I think China actually has a much more open view to it.
Yeah.
Now, I also want to separate the concept of national security AI risk versus civilian AI risk, right? And I used to work for a cybersecurity company, so I've experienced both, and I recently talked to a number of policymakers on both sides. And I think there's actually a lot of misunderstanding from the policymakers about where the risk is coming from and what it takes. And yesterday there was, or maybe 2 days ago, there was a paper came out from Dan Hendricks, Eric Schmidt, and Alexander Wang,
Hmm.
who created this new proposal to create this mutual assured AI malfunction. So essentially, it's they want to create a system where if you make a super AI, they will have the right to go in and destroy your data center, and they
I
think
see.
that's okay, right? And
Uh,
and this is a proposal coming from these U.S. Technology leaders. I think it is completely misplaced. It worked for nuclear weapons because we said if you fire, I'll fire, and so let's just both not fire these missiles. I don't think this is the same case here because it takes a significant amount of effort to actually make these nuclear bombs. But it's not that difficult right now to utilize these models, especially now that these models are being distilled and optimized for low-end hardware. Any terrorist, any world group can make utilize these to find security holes or to create types of let's say chemical weapons or maybe biological weapons. Now they're focusing the whole thing on trying to build super AI. They're like, oh, we need to register every chip so that you can make a data center to build super AI. The real danger in AI is not in super AI. The real danger in AI is actually in narrow advanced AI, because
mhm.
narrow advanced AI allows you to make these very high lethal weapons, allows you to make very dangerous viruses. It allows you to be able to hack into different networks. Those are not ASI. Those
Mhm.
are narrow AI, and
Yeah.
those can be done today with today's technology. You do not need giant data centers to do these. So the people who are
Mhm.
writing these papers seems like they don't understand the real threat, and it's very disappointing because they're the ones now advising the government leaders in terms of the policy. So I think we kind of need to separate, because at the end of the day, AI in general is 95% is civilian use. Maybe 5% of it is for defense or national security. We should separate those two pieces, because making a very effective virtual teacher or a virtual coach or a science assistant, those are good things that will help the world be more productive. There's really no national security threat from that, right? The things that I talked about where there are threats, you could just keep the data away from you, where you don't feed these very important gene data or very important chemical data or very important security codes, those kind of things. If you don't give it that data, there's no way for it to deduce that data, right?
I see.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that cooperation is definitely the way. And working together is a lot safer than trying to create competition. And unfortunately, the American policymakers are escalating competition and actually increasing the global risk by the type of policies that they're making. And in fact, things like chip sanctions and the fusion rules, those things actually create an independent ecosystem in China that makes it less dependent on the US and less reason for there to be future cooperation discussions. So it is a major issue in terms of how the US is looking at this. In fact, this weekend I have a talk to several hundred CEOs about this topic. So I'm actually quite passionate about it, because I feel like this is such an important time and we are doing so many wrong things in this area. So,
Huh.
Yeah,
Yeah, very
some great
interesting.
points.
Yeah. So another big point is that I actually personally feel that one major part of risk comes from bad actors using this technology to do
yes,
horrible. Right?
yes.
I mean, if the regulation has to be put in place, it really should put more penalty. If you want to print the fake money, right, and that's a prison type of the penalty, right? And then for deep fake, people are actually create a deep the fake information outside, and they should be penalized much more heavily than the way it is. They don't want to penalize those people who are creating, the bad news, or is it
No,
something?
I think that the problem is right now they don't think that's not the enemy. The enemy today to the U.S. government is the Chinese government,
I see.
right? But the
Okay.
problem is that if the Chinese government had these super weapons, they would
Yeah.
not want to use it because if they used
I
it,
see.
they know that there's a retaliation from
Uh-huh.
another state actor. This is the same as the whole mutual assured destruction idea works for cyber warfare as well.
I see.
Now, where it does not work is for rogue actors, for terrorists, for hackers, because there's nobody you can attack. When
Yeah.
they come and attack you and do things, there's nothing for you to attack back.
Yeah.
So when you think the enemy is one thing, but it's another thing, you're
Okay.
not creating the right protection and the right policies. So
Yeah.
this is the misinformation, the government today that needs to be fixed.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, great. I know we're about 20 minutes left, and we still have one section left. So see, we may trim one of our questions here. But so our next section, our last topic, AI and society impacts on jobs, education, and well-being. So our first question is, with AI increasingly mediating our interactions, do you think future generations will struggle with distinguishing reality from virtual reality? So how do we prepare for that? Alvin, let's give you a chance to tackle that.
I mean, I think that's less of an issue than people think. I mean, we watch TV, and then for that 2 hours, or watch a movie, for that 2 hours, we're engrossed into a virtual world, and that's actually good because that's how stories are supposed to be told, right? But when we leave that theater, we can actually go back to the real world. I think when you're using these different experiences, whether it's a virtual world or whether it's a game or whether it's a movie, I think humans are smarter than that. Now, I think it'll give you a much more deeper experience, much more immersive personal experience, which I think it's good because it allows you to be more entertained or to learn better. But that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Also, I do agree with Alvin. It's not a matter of the struggling, right, to distinguish between the two. I mean, it's okay. It's natural to put them together, right? Some of the games that can put people directly into virtual world. I think this is a good experience, right? Entertainment has the exactly same purpose, right? Take you outside of the real world for a while. You enjoy yourself a little bit more, and that's a really good thing. I agree with Alvin on that.
Yeah, and I would only add, I think within the spectrum of like mental health for people, like people who are in the normal range or typically normal range, I think you're exactly right that people can differentiate. It's when
Uh-huh.
you get to the extremes, the outer edges of mental health, that possibly that becomes a problem. But
Hmm.
that's a problem that sits with us today as
Uh,
well. So
I
I
see.
mean, I think that's a bigger society issue that is not necessarily isolated to this technology, right? And those people also have more addiction issues with drugs, with other types of potential addictive media, right? So
Yeah, maybe in that case, I mean, the technology of attracting people outside the real world into virtual world for a while. I don't know whether that may be part of therapy. But I don't know. That could happen. But are there any?
actually, and I'll give you an example of a good use case for that. We work with the VA, Veterans Administration, and they have thousands of devices that they actually use for with the
Oh,
returning troops when they
oh,
do post traumatic stress syndrome. They
oh.
actually have them put on this thing so they feel like they're in a war zone, and they allow them to
Mm,
gradually come out of it. They
mm.
can have virtual missions. They have these avatar AI powered avatar leaders in there that essentially is helping them, guiding them through that process. So
wow,
so it can have very positive use if you use it for the right reasons.
yeah, no, that's great.
So
Thank you.
yeah, go ahead then. Next question. We need to
Okay,
move
next
fast.
question. How do you see AI shaping education in the next decade? Will students learn better in a virtual AI enhanced environment, or do we risk losing some essential human connection?
Yeah, I think we've already talked about the benefits of AI for education. There's really no study that show anything negative about it. It really is a pretty much all good. As long as the content is designed well, it will make you learn that content better. So
Yeah, that's a huge market, I believe, on that as well. From my own personal experience, I remember many years ago, I was taking, actually, when I was at graduate school, I took one neuroanatomy class talking about the brain structure. Gosh, we have to go to physically, learn everything from the textbook, the 2D, everything, you memorize everything, and have to go to the lab to see 3D, brain. And I thought that if there is a 3D there, gosh, it would just shorten the learning cycle by a factor of at least one order of magnitude would be easier. It's very, very clear. I would think that, if I want to name number one benefit from this type of 3D environment, I would think that education would be the one.
Me too. It has such a broad use case because everybody can use it. We can all learn. There's nobody that can not benefit from learning.
Exactly. And there's no risk on that, right? I mean, originally you said
Yeah.
that the only risk could be disconnect from human. No, we need to have the teacher using as the tool to guide the learning, right?
Although I think there are cases where, let's say in places like Africa or Southeast Asia, where there aren't very many physical teachers, human teachers, this actually could replace that teacher to do maybe even a better job than an untrained or unqualified teacher, right? So from that perspective, I think it helps to alleviate the lack of educators we have in the market today.
Yeah.
Great point. Our last question that we have for today. So many industries are shifting towards automation. So do you think AI-powered virtual environments will create more jobs than they eliminate? I think we hinted at this earlier, but for an official answer.
So I thought that not now, right? Now, probably it will eliminate more jobs. But I think as the time goes, ever as you hinted earlier, people will move from once they look, the job is. But on the other, in the physical world, I believe that AI will create more jobs as well. Maybe there is opportunities in the virtual world. People can actually have any job opportunity that's related to the virtual economy we talked about earlier. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So maybe from that perspective, we see things a little different. I think AI and robots will take over almost all jobs in the physical world. Now, I think having a virtual world could give us an outlet for energy that we could see as a job, but we don't necessarily have to use it as a way of income. The way we see jobs today is that it is the thing that we trade our time to get money, then we can live our life and buy things and feed our children or whatever. For the world to be stable, we have to start creating a universal basic income model that will allow everybody who will be displaced in the coming decade to still be able to survive and have a decent quality life, right?
Mhm.
Now, with that in place, then UBI is not something to pay you not to work. UBI is to give you the money so that you can spend time on the thing that you care about. And I think that's a different way to look at it. So we may or may not be paid for the things that we do in the virtual world. We may just be doing virtual art and we can invite our friends to go look at this art or virtual music or whatever, right? Everybody has an artist in them, or you want to go in there and teach people from around the world. If you want to go in there and create virtual movies, whatever you want to do.
Mhm.
I think that's what the virtual platforms allow you to do, not necessarily as a way to make income, which I think for some period of time it will allow you to make some income. But I think in the long run, almost everything, almost all economic value that will be created, that can be created by humans, will be created more efficiently by technology.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get an argument against that. As we look forward into that, I think that's true.
So that the key is, how do we still maintain our purpose, right? I think that's really the question. So the virtual worlds gives you a sense of purpose because it gives you worlds you can build, it gives you places you can discover, it gives you ways where you can do physical travel or virtual travel. Those are kind of things that can give you a place to spend your time and feel that you mean something.
And I think something you said, shifting our mindset around why we work, right? If we're working to provide income to take care of ourselves, but whether robots and AI is doing everything for us, we as individuals, work is still a core part of what we do or what we should be doing, right? But the motivation for it may shift, I would think.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess it depends on how you define work. Because if you look at the majority of human history, we lived as hunter-gatherer tribes. And then hunter-gatherer tribes, and they've done studies that show essentially the average hunter-gatherer tribe spends about 2 to 3 hours a day working. So whether it's the farming or the scavenging or whatever, and the rest of the time they just hang out and they socialize, they dance, they cook, they eat, right? that was how we as humans lived for 150, 190,000 years. For the last 10,000, we've been, farming and then becoming slaves and office workers and factory workers. But that's not necessarily our natural state. We don't need that to be human. I think we're in a very special time right now in both the technology of AI and XR and also our society as a whole as humans. So we really need to have a smooth transition to the next phase where AI and robotics and XR can bring us into a better future, a better reality. And so and all of us actually has a ability to impact which way that future goes. So we can't let it go by its default, because right now the default path is actually heading towards a more negative reality where people in power or people with influence are going to bend it towards their personal benefit. Whereas the technology that we are creating and is being created by the industry around the world has the ability to bring value and happiness and abundance to everybody in the world. If you have a chance to influence somebody who are making these decisions, try to push them towards use of it for greater good. So that's my plea to everybody.
Good. Thank you,
Yeah.
Alvin. Thank you.
I'm going to say a few concluding words here. I appreciate the organization of this forum. Totally agree with Alvin that we're in the special world now. The technology is advancing in a much faster pace than you have ever seen before this AI revolution. Internet took longer time to realize. Now AI, it had long history, but just within last few years, it was experiencing this exponential growth, and that kind of growth, I don't see that to stop anytime soon. So we just have to be prepared for the benefit and as well as the risk produced by this technology. And I'm optimistic. I would like to see AI development not only benefiting the society the way it is, but also having an effect of understanding our human being as ourselves. 2 days ago, we got this Turing Award awarded to this AI expert called the Richard Sutton. I read his book, many of his articles, and he was advocating the role of AI as a way of understanding our own humanity more than just tangible benefit we can see right now. And this is something that it's getting very, very profound. And I think that with AI 3D technology, with this metaverse technology, XR as the interface, it's expected to have much better interface that is going to empower both sides of the technology. Eventually, it might actually merge into one single technology with the 3D immersive experience directly in the AI with the AI empowerment to create the technology that I have never seen before in the past. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you. With this, I just want to say this has been a fantastic discussion, and I appreciate the insights from both of our speakers and panelists. We appreciate the audience being here for this session. And with AI's role in shaping our reality, both physical and virtual, it's something that we should continue to explore. So thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate your time.